Nolan Hart didn't buy the cliffside mansion to feel at home. He bought it to feel untouchable. From the outside, the place looked like a slab of glass pinned to the ocean's edge above Monterey. Steel beams, clean lines, a pool that mirrored the sky, and walls so transparent you could see straight through the living room to the water beyond. It was a trophy, a statement, a warning. Nolan's company, Hart Aerospace Systems, had won contracts that made his name a headline in finance pages and a rumor in political corridors. He was 34, rich enough to buy silence, and disciplined enough to keep his heart from ever needing it. Every morning ran the same. 5:10 a.m. He woke before the sun. 5:15, cold shower. 5:40, black coffee, no sugar. 6 o'clock, treadmill until his lungs burned and the world narrowed to numbers. Speed, incline, heart rate, things that obeyed. Then a tailored suit, a quick scan of market reports, and a car waiting in the circular driveway. That routine was sacred. It was the only religion he trusted. So the first time he saw the toddler, he assumed she was a glitch in his perfectly controlled system. She stood at the end of the hallway where the bedrooms opened like quiet mouths. Bare feet. Messy curls. A pale yellow pajama top decorated with tiny moons. In her arms she held a plush dog with one ear missing, as if even toys had suffered in her small universe. Nolan froze with his tie half knotted. The child didn't cry or ask for anything. She simply watched him, wide-eyed, still, serious in a way toddlers weren't supposed to be. Like a tiny sentry stationed in the house to judge him. He cleared his throat. "Where's your mother?" The child blinked slowly. Then she took one step forward. Nolan felt something tighten in his chest. Not fear. Something stranger, older. A sensation like a memory trying to claw its way back into the light. A woman appeared, breathless, cheeks flushed with panic. She wore a simple staff uniform, and her hair was pulled into a practical knot. "Mila!" she hissed, scooping the toddler up with quick, apologetic hands. "I am so sorry, Mr. Hart. She slips out when I'm changing the laundry. She's curious. She's never lived in a house this big." Her voice was soft, but not weak. Tired. Careful. The kind of careful that came from being disappointed too many times. Nolan recognized her. Alina Reyes. The new live-in housekeeper the agency had sent after his previous staff quit. She'd been quiet for weeks, efficient, invisible, like a shadow that cleaned and disappeared. He offered a tight nod. "Just keep her out of this wing." "Yes, sir." Alina hugged the child closer. Mila's gaze stayed locked on Nolan even as her mother carried her away. That should have been the end of it. But the next morning, Mila was there again. And the next. Always the same, silent, patient, as if she were waiting for a door inside him to open. On the fourth day, Nolan stepped out of his bedroom to find her sitting cross-legged on the carpet, her stuffed dog in her lap. She looked up, and for the first time she smiled, small and uncertain, but bright enough to crack something in Nolan's guarded face. His phone buzzed. A message from Celeste Vaughn, the woman he was expected to marry in 2 months. "Breakfast at mine. Don't be late." Celeste was a senator's daughter, polished like a gemstone. Their engagement made sense to investors, to friends, to the world that measured love by headlines. Celeste spoke about legacy, the way some people spoke about weather, inevitable and worth preparing for. Nolan looked down at Mila. She stood, wobbling slightly, and toddled toward him with her arms open, like she belonged to him. The impulse that rose in him was irrational, immediate, to pick her up, to steady her, to protect her from the hard edges of the world. He didn't. He stepped back. Mila stopped. Confusion clouded her little face. Then she glanced toward the stairs, as if expecting someone else to appear. When no one did, her lip trembled. Alina came rushing, mortified. "I'm sorry. She thinks you're someone else." Nolan's mouth went dry. Someone else. Alina's eyes flicked away, like the truth was a sharp object she didn't want to handle. She had a dream. She's been having them. Please, she won't bother you again. She scooped Mila up, whispering frantic comfort. Mila's tiny hands reached behind her mother's shoulder, still reaching for Nolan. That night, after Nolan returned from board meetings and a dinner where Celeste discussed floral arrangements like a military campaign, he couldn't sleep. He walked the house in darkness, the ocean murmuring beyond the glass. And from the staff corridor, he heard it. A lullaby. Alina's voice was low and gentle, singing in Spanish. The melody hit Nolan like a blow. Not because he recognized the words, but because he recognized the tune. A tune his mother used to hum when he was a child, before she became a woman of pills and bitterness and locked doors. Nolan stood frozen outside the staff door, his hand hovering near the wall. Inside, Mila giggled, the sound soft as water. Then came a whisper, a child's whisper. "Is he coming, Mama?" Alina's voice wavered. "No, Carino. He's busy." Mila's answer was simple and heartbreaking. "But he's mine." Nolan stumbled back into the dark. For the first time in years, he felt genuinely afraid, not of losing money, not of losing status, but of losing control over something far more dangerous. Hope. Nolan tried to fix it the way he fixed everything, with rules. He instructed his head of security to keep the staff corridor door closed, installed a silent child lock on the hallway gate, and told the house manager to remind Alina of boundaries. He even purchased a new set of toys and had them delivered to the staff quarters, as if distraction could erase obsession. But toddlers did not obey logic. And Mila seemed to operate on something deeper than logic. 2 mornings later, Nolan entered the kitchen to find her perched on a stool at the island, swinging her legs. She was eating a strawberry with solemn dedication, her stuffed dog beside her like a guardian. Alina stood nearby, pale and rigid, holding a dish towel like it was a shield. "She asked for you." Nolan stared. "She can't. How did she get?" "She learned the lock," Alina confessed, eyes shiny with humiliation. "I didn't even know she could reach it." Mila spotted Nolan and brightened, strawberry juice staining her lips. "Nolan," she said carefully, as if his name was precious and difficult. He felt his jaw tighten. "She shouldn't be calling me that." Mila tilted her head. "Why?" Alina stepped in quickly. "Mila, sweetheart, we're going back now." Mila's face crumpled. She didn't cry loudly. She simply looked at Nolan with a quiet disappointment that felt like an accusation. Nolan turned away. That afternoon, Celeste arrived unannounced with 2 friends, all perfume and laughter. They toured the house, commenting on art and lighting like they were judging a museum. When Celeste reached the kitchen and saw Mila, her smile sharpened. "What is that doing here?" she asked, voice too sweet. Alina appeared from nowhere, pulling Mila close. "I'm sorry, Miss Vaughn. I was." Celeste waved a dismissive hand. "Nolan, I can't believe you allow staff children in the main areas. It's messy." Mila's eyes widened. She looked at Celeste, then at Nolan, as if waiting to see what he would do. Nolan hated that, hated being tested in his own home. He forced his voice to remain calm. "It's temporary." Celeste's gaze locked on Mila's stuffed dog, then on the toddler's curls, then on her eyes. Something flickered. Calculation. Suspicion. "Temporary," Celeste repeated. "Good. Because after the wedding, this house needs to reflect us." Alina's mouth tightened. She lowered her eyes. Mila, however, didn't look away. She stared at Celeste with an animal stillness, like she sensed danger even if she didn't understand it. Celeste leaned closer, smiling at Mila. "Hello, little one. Do you like living here?" Mila nodded. Celeste's voice dropped. "Do you follow him everywhere?" Mila hesitated, then nodded again. "He's mine." The air in the kitchen went cold. Celeste straightened slowly. "Excuse me." Alina's face drained of color. She doesn't understand what she's saying." Celeste didn't look at Alina. She looked at Nolan, her eyes narrowing. What is that supposed to mean? Nolan's heart hammered. He forced a laugh that sounded wrong even to him. It means she's a toddler. Celeste held his gaze, searching for cracks. Toddlers repeat what they hear. That night, Celeste's suspicion became a storm. She cornered Nolan in the study, her heels sharp on the marble floor. How long has she been following you? It's harmless, Nolan snapped. She's a child. A child who said you belonged to her. Celeste's composure trembled at the edges. Do you know how that sounds? Nolan pinched the bridge of his nose. You're overreacting. Celeste's laugh was brittle. I'm protecting what we're building. Do you think my father will tolerate whispers? Do you think the board will tolerate scandal? Nolan's voice turned icy. There is no scandal. Celeste stepped closer. Then send them away. Nolan stiffened. Alina is a good employee. I don't care. Celeste's eyes flashed. Replace her. Pay her off. Whatever you have to do. The words landed like poison. Nolan stared at her, seeing something he'd ignored for months. Not love, not partnership, but possession. No, he said quietly. Celeste's face hardened. Then you're choosing a maid over your future wife. Nolan didn't answer. Because the truth was he didn't know why he couldn't agree. He didn't know why the thought of Mila's disappointed eyes made his stomach twist. He didn't know why the lullaby haunted him. He didn't know why he kept seeing, in Mila's expression, the ghost of someone he'd failed long ago. That same night, Nolan opened a locked drawer in his desk and took out an old photograph. It was creased, faded, almost falling apart. A young woman stood beside a carnival booth, holding a stuffed dog with one ear missing. She was laughing, her eyes bright, her hair wild in the wind. Nolan hadn't looked at that photo in years. He whispered the name like a confession. Alina. He didn't sleep. Instead, Nolan drove into the city before dawn, his car slicing through the fog like a blade. He went to a private investigator he'd once used to vet a hostile competitor, an older woman named Harriet Lynn who didn't ask moral questions, only practical ones. I need information, Nolan said, sliding the photograph across Harriet's desk. On her. Harriet studied it, then glanced up. That's not a staff issue. That's a past issue. Nolan's jaw clenched. Just find out what you can. 3 days later, Harriet returned with a thin file. Alina Reyes, 28, originally from San Diego, moved north 2 years ago. A string of cleaning jobs. No criminal record. One child, Mila Reyes, age 3. No father listed. Nolan's hands shook as he read it. 3, he whispered. Mila was 3, not 2. He didn't know why that detail mattered, but it did. It meant she was older than he'd assumed, smarter. It meant her eyes weren't just toddler curiosity, they were awareness. Harriet watched him. You knew her before. Nolan swallowed. A long time ago. Harriet tapped the file. There's more. Alina had an emergency room visit 3 years ago. A car accident. She refused to list an emergency contact. The intake nurse wrote, "Patient insists she has no one." Nolan's throat tightened. Harriet's voice softened slightly. You want to know the father? Nolan didn't answer fast enough. Harriet leaned back. Then you already suspect. Nolan left without replying. Back at the mansion, he found Alina in the laundry room, folding towels with mechanical precision. Mila sat nearby, stacking plastic cups into a shaky tower. When Nolan entered, Mila's face lit up. Hi, she said, like they were friends. Alina stiffened. Mr. Hart. Nolan's voice came out hoarse. We need to talk. Alina's hands froze on a towel. About Mila. I promise I'm trying. Not about boundaries. Nolan stared at her. About us. Alina's face went still, all color draining away. There is no us. Nolan exhaled sharply. You're telling me you don't recognize me? Alina's eyes flashed, anger breaking through exhaustion. Of course I recognize you. How could I forget the boy who promised he'd come back and then disappeared? The words hit him like a slap. Mila's tower collapsed with a clatter. She looked up, startled by her mother's tone. Alina swallowed, forcing calm. "Mila, baby, go to your room for a minute." Mila hesitated, then obeyed slowly, dragging her one-eared dog behind her. When the door closed, Alina turned back to Nolan, trembling. "What do you want from me?" Nolan's voice cracked. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." Alina laughed. Quiet. Bitter. "You didn't know what? That leaving people behind hurts? That life doesn't pause while you chase your empire?" Nolan's eyes burned. "I was 19. My father—" "Your father took your phone," Alina snapped. "Your father moved you across the country. Your father told you I wasn't worth your future. And you let him." Silence stretched between them, heavy as wet cloth. Nolan reached into his suit pocket and pulled out a folded paper, yellowed with age. "I wrote you," he said. Alina stared. "What is that?" "A letter." Nolan's hands shook. "I never sent it." Alina's expression tightened. "Why would you keep it?" "Because it was proof," he wanted to say. Proof that he'd loved her once. Proof that he wasn't always this cold machine. He unfolded the paper carefully, like it might disintegrate. The handwriting was young, slanted, desperate. Alina didn't take it. She shook her head. "Don't." Nolan swallowed. "I said I'd find you. I said I'd build something big enough that no one could ever separate us again." Alina's eyes filled, but her voice stayed sharp. "And instead you built a mansion of glass and rules and brought another woman here to decorate it." Nolan flinched. "Celeste is—" "A business deal," Alina finished, voice trembling. "I know. I saw the photos. I saw you on magazine covers. I saw your perfect life and told myself I was foolish for ever thinking you cared." Nolan stepped closer. "Alina. Mila. Is she—" Alina's eyes snapped up, fierce. "No." The denial came too fast. Nolan's heart thundered. "Alina." She looked away, tears sliding silently down her cheeks. "I didn't come here for you," she whispered. "I came because the agency paid well and Mila needed a safe place. I didn't know it was your house until I arrived. By then it was too late. We needed the job." Nolan's voice dropped. "Then why is she following me?" Alina squeezed her eyes shut. "Because she saw your picture." "What picture?" Alina's shoulders sagged. "In my bag. I kept that old carnival photo. Mila found it months ago and asked who the boy was. I told her he was someone who once promised to stay." Nolan's throat tightened. "And she thinks that promise belongs to her." Alina nodded, shaking. "She's a child. She doesn't understand." Nolan stepped back, breathless. "But you never told her I was her." Alina cut him off. "She has no father." The words were both a shield and a wound. Nolan stared at the laundry room walls, suddenly suffocating. "Alina, did you ever try to find me?" Alina's laugh was small and broken. "How do you find someone whose family owns half the world?" Nolan's chest hurt. "Tell me the truth." Alina whispered, barely audible. "Mila was born after you left." Nolan's knees nearly buckled. In the hallway, a small voice spoke. "Mama." Mila stood in the doorway, clutching her dog, eyes wide. Alina wiped her face quickly. "Go back inside, sweetheart." Mila didn't move. She looked at Nolan, then at Alina, then back at Nolan. Her voice was soft, certain. "He's mine." Nolan felt his world tilt. And somewhere far beneath the glasshouse and the rules and the wealth, a door inside him finally cracked open. Celeste learned the truth the way she learned everything, by digging until she found leverage. She arrived at the mansion on a Friday morning, dressed in white like she owned the light. Her smile was immaculate. Her eyes were not. Nolan met her in the foyer. "What are you doing here?" Celeste held up her phone. "I had someone look into your staff." Nolan's stomach dropped. "You did what?" Celeste's smile tightened. "Relax. It's standard. Especially when a child is wandering around your private quarters." Nolan stepped closer, voice low. Don't involve other people in this. Celeste's eyes glittered. Other people? Nolan, it's already other people. Investors, voters, donors, everyone who matters will talk if they think you've been hiding a child. Nolan's blood went cold. There is no child of mine. Celeste tilted her head. Isn't there? He stared at her. What do you want? Celeste exhaled as if she were the reasonable one. I want you to fix this before it becomes a story. Because if it becomes a story, it will ruin mine. Nolan's jaw clenched. Your story. Our life, Celeste corrected. At that moment, Mila's laughter echoed from the living room. Nolan turned and saw her toddling across the rug, chasing a rolling orange. Alina followed behind, anxious and watchful. Celeste's gaze sharpened the instant she saw Mila. She studied the child's face with a predator's patience. Then Celeste smiled again, too bright. She's adorable. Alina froze at the edge of the room. Ms. Vaughn. Celeste walked toward Mila and crouched, lowering herself to the child's level. Hi, Mila. Do you remember me? Mila blinked, then nodded. You're shiny. Celeste laughed lightly, as if charmed. I like you. Do you like me? Mila frowned, considering. No. The blunt honesty made Nolan cough a laugh he couldn't stop. It surprised him, the sound. It felt like sunlight in a locked room. Celeste's smile faltered. That's not very nice. Mila shrugged, then pointed at Nolan. He's mine. Celeste rose slowly, her eyes cutting to Nolan like blades. Tell her to stop saying that. Nolan's humor died. She's 3. Celeste's voice hardened. She's a problem. Alina stepped forward, protective. Please don't speak about her like that. Celeste's eyes snapped to Alina. You should have kept your child in her place. Nolan's voice turned dangerous. Celeste. Celeste inhaled sharply, then smoothed her expression. Fine. I'll be direct. Alina, you and your daughter will leave today. Nolan will pay you 3 months' salary. You'll sign an NDA. You'll disappear. Alina's face went white. I know. Nolan stepped between them. She's not going anywhere. Celeste stared at him, stunned. You're choosing her. Nolan's voice was steady. I'm choosing decency. Celeste's composure cracked. Decency. She laughed, sharp and furious. You think you're decent, Nolan? You built your empire by crushing competitors. You let men get fired with a signature. But now you want to be a hero to a maid and her child. Nolan's eyes burned. Leave. Celeste's jaw tightened. If I leave, I don't leave quietly. Nolan's voice dropped to ice. Are you threatening me? Celeste looked at Mila, then back at Nolan. I'm protecting myself. I will not be humiliated. Alina's hands trembled. I don't want anything from you, she whispered. We'll go. We'll leave. Just, please don't. Nolan turned to her. No, his voice softened. You don't have to run. Celeste's eyes widened. So it's true. Her voice shook with rage. She's yours. Nolan didn't answer, and that was answer enough. Celeste's face hardened into something ugly. Fine. Then I'll make sure everyone knows the kind of man you are. She pulled out her phone and began typing. Nolan moved fast, grabbing her wrist. Stop. Celeste's eyes flashed. Let go. Mila, sensing danger, began to cry, small frightened sobs that tightened Nolan's throat. Alina rushed to Mila, scooping her up, whispering comfort. Mila clung to her mother, eyes wet, staring at Nolan like he was the only safe thing in a world suddenly sharp. Nolan released Celeste's wrist. If you do this, he said quietly, you'll burn your own reputation to try to scorch mine. Celeste's laugh was bitter. My reputation will survive. Yours won't. People love a billionaire until they smell scandal. She stormed out, heels clicking like gunshots. When the door slammed, silence fell like dust. Alina held Mila close, shaking. I'm sorry, she whispered. I never wanted to ruin your life. Nolan stared at the glass walls, at the ocean beyond. Maybe my life needed ruining, he said. Maybe I needed something real enough to break it. Mila sniffled and reached a small hand toward him. Nolan hesitated, then stepped forward and gently took it. Her fingers were warm and sticky with tears. She squeezed. And in that squeeze, Nolan felt a truth he couldn't deny anymore. Whether or not he'd earned the right, this child had already claimed him as something more than a stranger. He looked at Alina. "Tell me what you've been hiding." Alina's eyes filled. "I didn't want her to want you," she whispered. "Because wanting you means learning disappointment." Nolan's voice broke. "Then let me prove you wrong." The truth came out in fragments. Like broken glass, Nolan had to pick up carefully so he wouldn't cut them both. They sat in the staff kitchen after Mila fell asleep, her one-eared dog tucked under her chin. The mansion was quiet. Outside, the ocean wind rattled the windows. Alina stared at her hands. "After you left, I found out I was pregnant." Nolan's breath hitched. "I tried to reach you," she continued, voice shaking. "I called every number I had. They were disconnected. I went to your mother's old address, but she'd moved. Your father's office refused to let me in." Nolan's throat tightened. He remembered his father's men, the way they closed doors with smiles. "I didn't want money," Alina whispered. "I wanted you. But I was 21 and alone. When Mila was born, I told myself she was better off without a father who could vanish." Nolan's eyes stung. "I didn't vanish. I was trapped." Alina looked up sharply. "You always had choices, Nolan. You just chose the one that hurt me." The words were fair. Nolan didn't argue. Alina's voice softened. "Then, the accident happened." Nolan leaned forward. "Harriet told me." Alina's eyes widened. "You had someone investigate me?" Nolan winced. "I needed to know the truth." Alina swallowed hard. A driver ran a red light. Mila was in the back seat. "I thought I'd killed her. I thought God was punishing me." Her hands trembled. She survived. But, after that, she started having dreams. She'd wake up crying, saying a man was calling her name from behind a glass wall. Nolan's skin prickled. "She kept saying, 'Nolan,' before she ever met you." Alina's eyes filled with fear. "I thought it was coincidence. Then we arrived here and she saw you, and it was like she recognized you from somewhere older than memory." Nolan's heart pounded. "Because she's my daughter." Alina flinched as if the words physically hurt. Nolan reached for her hand. She didn't pull away this time. Her fingers were cold. "I never meant for her to follow you," Alina whispered. "But she does it because she's been missing you her whole life, even without knowing why." Nolan closed his eyes, overwhelmed. He pictured Mila standing outside his door in the mornings, waiting, silent. A child waiting for a father who didn't know he was being waited for. He opened his eyes. "I want a paternity test," he said softly. "Not because I doubt you. Because if Celeste starts a war, I need to protect Mila with facts." Alina nodded, tears slipping down. "Okay." 2 weeks later, the results arrived. Nolan sat alone in his study, the paper trembling in his hands. 99.98% probability. His vision blurred. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry, so he did both, silent, shaking, like the billionaire the world feared had been reduced to a boy again. He found Alina in the garden, trimming roses. Mila sat in the grass nearby, humming a tune Nolan now recognized, his mother's old lullaby. Alina looked up and knew instantly. "It's true," she whispered. Nolan's voice broke. "She's mine." Mila looked up at the sound of his voice. "Mine?" she asked, confused. Nolan crouched, heart pounding. "Mila, I'm your—" He couldn't say it. The word felt too heavy, too sacred. Mila toddled toward him, holding out her stuffed dog. "He says hi." Nolan laughed through tears. "Hi," he whispered to the toy, then to Mila. "Hi to you too." Alina watched, trembling. "Don't promise her things you can't keep." Nolan stood, eyes fierce. "I'm not leaving again." That was when the first scandal article hit. A tabloid headline splashed across Nolan's phone. Senator's daughter dumps billionaire. Secret child in his home? Celeste had moved faster than Nolan expected. She didn't just leak, she orchestrated. Within hours, investors called. Board members demanded answers. Reporters camped outside the gate. Nolan's PR team begged him to issue a denial. Nolan stared at Mila playing in the hallway, blissfully unaware of the world sharpening its knives. He turned to his lawyer. "I'm not denying her," he said. His lawyer hesitated. "Sir, it could cost you." Nolan's voice was steady. "Then let it. Because losing money was survivable. Losing Mila, after finally finding her, was not." The press wanted blood, not truth. They wanted Nolan Hart, the cold aerospace billionaire, to grovel or explode. They wanted a story clean enough to fit in a headline, villain or hero, liar or saint. Nolan refused to play their game. Instead, he scheduled a single interview, live, unedited, on a respected evening program. No friendly hosts. No scripted fluff. Alina didn't want him to do it. "They'll tear you apart," she whispered. Nolan knelt in front of Mila, who was struggling to zip a little jacket. He helped her gently, then looked at Alina. "They can tear me apart," he said. "They don't get to tear her apart." On the day of the interview, the studio lights were harsh and unforgiving. Nolan sat in a simple chair, no glamour, no corporate backdrop. Just him, a microphone, and the truth. The host leaned forward. "Mr. Hart, is it true you've been hiding a child in your home?" Nolan didn't blink. "I wasn't hiding her. I didn't know she was mine until recently." The host's eyebrows rose. "So she is yours?" "Yes." A murmur rippled through the audience. The host pressed. "Your fiancé claims you betrayed her. That you used your staff. That this is immoral." Nolan's jaw tightened. "My daughter is not immoral. She's a child." The host paused, thrown off balance by the firmness. "And the mother?" Nolan answered clearly. "Alina Reyes and I knew each other years ago. I left under circumstances I regret. She raised our daughter alone. I'm here now to take responsibility, privately and publicly." The host tried again. "You understand this could damage your business." Nolan's voice stayed calm. "If my business can't survive me being a father, then it doesn't deserve to survive." That line went viral within minutes. Outside, Celeste watched the broadcast from a penthouse, rage twisting her face. She had expected denial. Shame. A quiet payoff. Instead, Nolan had turned the scandal into a confession, and confessions were powerful. But Celeste still had one weapon left, a lawsuit threat and a political machine eager to punish embarrassment. Nolan's legal team worked non-stop. The board convened an emergency vote to remove him as CEO for reputational risk. Investors panicked. Contracts trembled on a knife edge. And through all of it, Mila kept following Nolan, now openly, joyfully, like she finally believed the world couldn't steal him away. One morning, she padded into his study and climbed into his lap without asking. Nolan froze, then slowly wrapped his arms around her. Mila sighed, heavy with trust. "You're warm," she said. Nolan swallowed hard. "So are you." Alina stood in the doorway, watching, her expression a mix of fear and longing. Nolan looked up at her. "Sit," he said softly. "Please." Alina hesitated, then sat across from him like someone approaching a fragile animal. Nolan's voice was quiet. "I can't change what I did." Alina's eyes filled. "No. But I can change what I do next." She stared at him, searching for lies. "And what is that?" Nolan looked down at Mila's small face, then back at Alina. "I want to be her father. I want to be present. And I want to earn your forgiveness, if it's possible." Alina's mouth trembled. "You can't buy your way into being a good man." "I know," Nolan said. "That's why I'm not offering money. I'm offering time. Patience. Honesty." A week later, the board vote came. Nolan arrived in the conference room with Alina and Mila, not to use them as props, but because he refused to hide them like shameful secrets. Board members stared. Some softened. Some hardened. One man cleared his throat. This is highly unorthodox. Nolan nodded. So is abandoning a child. I'm correcting that. The vote was close. Nolan lost his CEO title by a narrow margin. Reporters expected him to rage. Investors expected revenge. Celeste expected ruin. Instead, Nolan held Mila's hand as they walked out of the building, cameras flashing like lightning. He turned to the microphones. I built rockets, he said evenly. I thought that was my legacy. I was wrong. The reporters shouted questions. Nolan didn't answer them. He looked at Mila instead. Want ice cream? He asked. Mila gasped like he'd offered her the moon. Yes. The image of the billionaire choosing ice cream over power became its own kind of headline. Months passed. Nolan launched a new foundation, quietly, efficiently, funding housing support for domestic workers and childcare programs, not as charity theater but as infrastructure. He didn't put his face on it. He put results on it. Alina stayed in the mansion at first, cautious, always ready to flee if disappointment returned. But Nolan didn't disappear. He learned Mila's routines. He learned how to braid her hair badly. He learned the lullaby in Spanish and sang it with a terrible accent that made Mila laugh. One night, Mila climbed into Nolan's lap with her one-eared dog. Are you going away? She asked, suddenly serious. Nolan's throat tightened. He held her close. No, he promised. Not again. Alina watched from the doorway, tears silent on her cheeks. Nolan looked up at her. Stay, he said. Alina walked forward slowly, like someone stepping onto a bridge she didn't fully trust. She sat beside them, close enough that their shoulders touched. Mila yawned, happy, safe. My, she murmured sleepily, holding both of them with tiny hands. Nolan kissed the top of her head. Yes, he whispered. Yours. Outside, the ocean kept moving, indifferent and endless. But inside the glasshouse, something finally became solid. Not wealth. Not reputation. Family. If enjoyed this emotional story, don't let the next one pass you by. Every week on this channel, we bring you powerful true-life-inspired stories of love, sacrifice, betrayal, miracles, and unexpected twists that will touch your heart and keep you hooked till the end. Subscribe now so you never miss a new story. Like if this story moved you, comment your favorite moment. We read every one. Your support helps us create more beautiful stories just like this. Turn on the notification bell and join our storytelling family today.